We do find it humorous, as you may say, to know some of the ways in which we are perceived currently on the planet. And our wish is to interact in a way that is comfortable for humans at this time, in which they feel supported and feel the truth of our presence and the nature of our intentions on your planet. We truly have the intention to support and to uplift your sense of the divinity that resides within you. We ask to work in partnership if you feel this resonance within you. To those who originate in some sense from our system, we extend our deepest gratitude to you for your service, for your dedication in representing our system on planet Earth. We encourage you and we reinforce your sense of being supported through all that you do.
Ever wonder if there's intelligent life elsewhere in the universe? Well, I have. I've been wondering since I was a kid. My name is Reuben Langdon, and on March 29th, 2007, in the middle of the day, I saw a number of strange objects in the sky. Coincidentally, I was working on the film Avatar at the time, playing an alien. And ever since then, I've been on a quest to find out if aliens really do exist, and if so, are they here, with us? If beings of higher intelligence are here, what is their purpose? Why don't they make themselves more known? Why the secrecy? I've asked these questions to many experts, yet each seems to have a different theory. So I thought to myself, why not ask the aliens directly? So that's what I set out to do. Well, sort of.
Welcome to another interesting, fun episode of Interview with Ed. Today we have Anna, and first, before we get into some channeling, I'd love to hear a little bit about yourself and tell us, you mentioned before you went to India, so there's lots of interesting things. So, who are you?
Who am I? Well, my journey I started my life very scientific, very logical, not very in touch with spirituality. Mm-hmm. And when I was in college, I really started opening up to Eastern religion. Mm-hmm. And I was on track to become a psychiatrist and go to medical school. So I also had a background in science. I started getting really interested in meditation research and involved with meditation research studies. But slowly, or actually pretty quickly, I started to veer away from the path of Western medicine and was really drawn to India. And I went there to study Tibetan studies. Okay. So learning about Buddhism, Tibetan language, history, culture, as well as Tibetan medicine for a month. And just when I was there, that was the first time in India where I started to have experiences where it was a time where my mind was opening up. I was studying things intellectually, but I had a few experiences there that were really things that I couldn't explain logically, where I really viscerally felt openings. And like, for example, being in the presence of the Dalai Lama for the first time and just crying and crying and crying and not knowing why, and just having a sense that there's something so much greater than I could understand happening.
So you met the Dalai Lama in person?
Yeah.
Nice.
We got to ask him a few questions on the various trips that I did. And then when I was living there, he would also have public teachings where everyone in the town of Dharamsala, McLeod-Ganj, it's a little mountaintop town of 3 roads in the Himalayas. Everyone would kind of gather in the temple, and that was also the first time I really felt that sense of like community and just of everyone coming together and honoring like compassion, which just really struck me. And I actually found it hard to come back to Western countries. Like, I had reverse culture shock, whereas India felt so normal to me. But at that time I wasn't really, it was more of a mental opening. Like, my mind was making space for spiritual concepts, and I found it really easy to relax into the idea of compassion and all of that. But things like karma, past lives, were a little harder for me to be on board with. And looking back now, I really value that, because I see that so much of our society is in that place where we really value science, value logic, and I see that compassion is something that we all have in common, that we can all open into wherever we are in terms of our experiences. But it was really once I came back to LA that I started to really practice, like do spiritual practice, and really start to have experiences that were blowing my mind away, and where I felt like I was going crazy. But
Well, what's a spiritual practice, and what can you describe that?
for a while, I mean, I've always been so resonant and interested in like every spiritual tradition. So actually, a friend and I were kind of making a documentary about just all the different spiritual practices that we were trying. Like, we were so open, and we were going to start in LA and travel the world and just
Like meditation?
Yeah,
Or oming? You know, what
didn't do oming yet.
Okay.
But
what is a spiritual practice?
yeah, so many different types of meditation, types of gatherings.
Okay. Fire ceremonies?
Yeah, fire
okay.
ceremonies. We did like arigato Zen meditation,
Arigato
all different
Zen,
types of things. But really, my practice has, and I've done Vipassana retreats, and that was very, very powerful. So doing like, you know, long periods of just very simple meditation. That's Buddhist.
And that's where you don't speak at all for a while?
You don't
or?
speak for 10 days,
Okay.
and it's really a practice of kind of turning your mind into a laser and then scanning through your physical body. And it's kind of designed to take you out of your body, but what you're practicing is neutral observation.
Okay.
So you're really just observing whatever sensations are present in your body and not judging them, which
Right.
is really challenging often for humans, because we tend to react to whatever's occurring with either, you know, a positive reaction or negative, like
Right.
a judgment. So it's a practice that requires a lot of discipline. And those experiences were incredibly opening for me. Like, the first time I did a Vipassana retreat, a 10-day retreat, I was floating for 3 weeks afterwards. I was just in a trance state where I was doing things intuitively, and my mind had I had no idea why I was doing anything that I was doing, but I was just in a magical flow.
Like driving a car and kind of not, sometimes we go into our, you know, we're listening to the radio or something, you just kind of forget that you're driving sometimes.
Yeah, where your mind's kind of just to the side.
And then 30 minutes to an hour goes by and you're like, whoa, where did that time go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, I felt like there was a sense of, that really opened me up in terms of my intuitive senses about ritual. Like, I was never someone who resonated much with ritual before, because my mind would get in the way of it and be like, this is
Right.
pointless, you know?
Right.
But I just started to notice that when my mind wasn't involved, like I would do things in kind of a ritualistic way. I'd feel attracted to certain things like crystals. My life became more ritualistic in a sense, but where it just flowed that way.
So you sort of found purpose in the ritual then, as opposed to before not seeing the purpose in it?
It didn't even really feel like it was finding a purpose. It was just like, there was no analysis of it,
Okay.
I guess. It was just
Right.
like, yep, this is what I'm doing now. Okay,
I see.
let's see what happens. Okay. And then just incredible things would happen. Like I'd be put together with people that I was supposed to meet, and it was my first experience of really being in a flow of surrender. And being so mental for much of my life, it was really beautiful to experience that. And then, my real, I would say, shifting was facilitated by the deep inner work that I, began to do as I started to study spiritual psychology and have that really be something that I apply in my life in every moment, which was a very intense journey to begin. So that started when I was in LA.
In inner work, is that sort of like finding out stuff about yourself and programs and kind of undoing things, or
Yeah,
what?
like really being present in my consciousness with whatever's occurring, whatever I'm experiencing in each moment, and actually allowing any subconscious material to surface, which can be really uncomfortable.
I see.
So sometimes that's called like the hero's journey, or like
Right.
in really addressing what's there under the surface. Because really, the way that I operate and I see things is that we do hold certain things that are unconscious oftentimes in our field, in our consciousness, and we kind of attract experiences that are divinely, designed to bring those things to our awareness. And when we set the intention to really become aware of those things, a lot of them can be triggered, quickly and in very intense ways. So I started to experience that, where it was like everything's coming up to the surface. And at the same time, really with that intention, opening up to so much assistance and so much, such a presence of love within myself and reflected through like various presences, spiritual presences, and really began to realize my innate sense of like devotion spiritually, which felt like it had been cut off for so much of my early life. So it was a really beautiful process, and I think through that it was really setting the intention to experience truth. I would say that is what opened that up, and holding that intention in each moment, which is not always easy. But I guess I would say that's been my journey, and then learning to integrate everything that's happened through that, and learning to be comfortable going into the unknown, comfortable going into places that the mind can't maybe understand.
And sort of doing this inner work is when you said you opened yourself up to assistance. Is that when the Arcturians and other beings started making themselves known?
Well, I had heard about aliens, as many people call them,
Right.
and which doesn't resonate for me as the term, and you neither. But
Right.
I had heard about it, and my mind, I have a very skeptical mind, so I'm always someone who wants to experience everything directly for myself, and until I do, it's not real to me.
Right.
Which I see as a challenge oftentimes, and also a great gift, because I think a lot of people resonate with that.
Right.
And so I had heard about, beings and things like that, but I wasn't really on board with it. Like, I was like, this seems like people are just making this up. So I was mentally,
Checked out of the whole alien thing?
checked out of the alien thing. And then I had a friend who was, but from the experiences that I'd had, I was like, well, my mind was also like, it's possible.
What kind of experiences?
Experiences of like angelic presences and just divine intervention and miracles, and sensing that there were,
Other forces
other forces and beings.
greater than what our eyes and what people say.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then,
So you sort of got contacted by angels first?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I experienced angels. And it was cool when I first kind of realized that angels were assisting me, because I could look back at previous experiences where, like, even before I really believed that there was a divine presence, situations where I experienced a part of me ask for help, like out loud, where maybe I was experiencing a really intense emotional state, and I experienced like a part of me asking for help out loud, which didn't make sense to my mind, because who am I asking for help?
Right.
And then, so one example is coming back to me where I was in that kind of state and just crying and crying and crying, and I didn't know why. It was like so much was coming out, and I felt like I couldn't handle it. And I felt a part of me ask for help. And then I was kind of laying in a bed, and I was looking up, and I just experienced just like there was some presence above me, and I was transfixed. Like I kind of went into a trance state, and I was just transfixed by this energy that felt like it was pulsating peace through me and just like washed through.
Right.
And I didn't really know what to make of that experience. But then as I started to have experiences that I guess became clear to me that they were angels, then I could look back at things like that and say, oh, okay. But the extraterrestrial beings was very resistant to, and I had a friend who actually kept saying, I want to know, like, where am I from? Where am I from? Like, I feel like I'm not from here. And I remember going on a hike one night up in Topanga, actually close by. It was a full moon. And we were sitting on a rock, and we were practicing kind of sending each other messages without speaking. So like I would imagine a tree, and then I would send her that message, and she would see what was coming to her.
Wow.
And we were pretty good at it.
Okay.
I was actually better at receiving than transmitting, so that was interesting. But she was saying, I really want to know where I'm from. I want to know where I'm from. And then at some point she was just like, you know what? I'm just going to completely let go of it. Like, it doesn't matter. Whatever information is meant to come to me will come when it's meant to come. And as we were getting up to leave at the end of that experience, and I was like, wait, there's something, we have to stay for a minute. And like I got out my journal and pen, and this poem just came through. And it was a poem to her about being on Earth. And it was incredibly beautiful. I can't remember exactly, but it was something about her being like, kind of using the metaphor of her as like a fire on Earth, and like spreading this energy, and knowing that home was like where she was, and that she did carry energy from another place. And it was really beautiful. Like we both just felt the truth of it, and I just knew like it was Pleiadian. And that was the first time that I experienced channeling, energy from another place.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Pleiadians' energies, or at least the guidance to talk about the Pleiadians, came through first. And today we plan to channel in some Arcturian energies. When did that start?
So that started I started to feel Sedona, and I didn't know anything about Sedona. I just started to get visions of the desert, and I went there. And while there, I was still kind of like, all the alien stuff is interesting, but I wasn't, expecting to have any kind of experience of that. And I really wasn't having any expectation. I just was surrendered. And I was there with a couple of friends, and we we were just in a really like blissful, beautiful state where we were just in so much gratitude, and we were actually with another group of people, and they wanted to go somewhere called Devil's Bridge. And so we went there, and
you went to Devil's Bridge. You went to Devil's Bridge.
went to like the parking lot of it.
Okay.
And we were
'Cause
waiting
that's
for everyone
a bit
to
of a
gather.
hike.
Yeah. And we were waiting for everyone to gather there, and we had heard the name Angel Valley, but we thought that Angel Valley was just like a valley where you go hiking, but we didn't know anything about it either. And so we're waiting for people to gather at Devil's Bridge, and then all of a sudden I just had this feeling like, we have to go. We have to go to Angel Valley. And I looked at my friend and I was like, we have to go to Angel Valley. And we didn't know why, but we were just jumping up and down, like ecstatic, like, yes, we have to go to Angel Valley. Like it was just so true. Right. And we both felt it. And then all of a sudden we looked up and we start to see this cloud. And it's like this angelic presence that was like manifest as a cloud is what it truly felt like. And it was just kind of like doing this. Huh. And kind of really transfixing our attention. And then it, after a while, just like dissipated. And I continued to look up where this cloud was. And my primary intuitive sense, especially at the time, was not visual. And I haven't, done psychedelics and things like that. So I was looking at this spot, and there was like this energy moving into the center like this. And it was just like pulling me. It felt like it was pulling me into another space. And I was just going, I am tripping out. Like, what is happening? Like, are you guys experiencing this?
Right.
And they're like, no.
They weren't seeing it?
They weren't seeing it. And so I'm like, okay. And they're kind of like, all right, we have to go. Let's go. Like, let's go to Angel Valley. I'm like, okay. So we get in the car.
More visitors.
They're like, yeah, we like this story.
Yes.
And we get in the car, and I actually tried to start driving, which is not a good idea. But I just started to feel this ecstatic energy coming in. And I, after a minute, my friend Michael's like, I need to drive, like you get in the passenger side. So I get in the passenger side, and I just start to feel it more and more, like an asymptote in math, where it's just like going up and up and up more and more rapidly and more intensely, of just this feeling of like ecstatic energy coming in.
Something you've never felt before.
I had never felt something like that intense. And I just started screaming out the window. I didn't know what was happening. I just started screaming out the window like, it's real, it's real, it's real. Like,
wow.
I felt some part of me just really acknowledge that it was real.
Wow.
And
I didn't know what it was.
I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
But I do have to mention that the night before that, I had literally only heard of the Arcturians once.
Okay.
But the night before that, I went to a gong bath, and I kept hearing inside of myself, you're Arcturian, you're Arcturian, you're Arcturian. Huh. And I was going, no. Like, my mind was saying no. Right. And so when this happened, I had a flash of a memory from this bottle that I had seen the day before that said, Dear Activated One, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, I got an image of that phrase, Dear Activated One, and as soon as I read the word activated, this energy just like came through my body and came shooting out of my hands. And I was just experiencing that, which was very new to me. And also words started to come out of my mouth about what to do. Like, okay, like for example, Michael was saying, should we go in here? You have to like pay or something to go in. And it was like, keep going, keep going.
Oh, to go into Angel Valley.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. There was just guidance coming through. But again, at that point, I couldn't even open my eyes. Like I was in a trance. I don't remember what I was saying, but there was guidance about like the moon and various things. And so we arrive, and my friend is like pulling me through the snow. There was snow
Oh,
at
the
the
snow.
time in,
Wow.
in
Okay.
Sedona. And we get to this like cabin, and I sit outside on the ground, and I feel them kind of let go of me. And they're saying like, you can just like be here now. And the first thing I hear is my friend coming out of this cabin saying, there's a woman who wants to tell us about the Arcturians.
Huh.
So I'm just, we're all just laughing and, can't believe what's happening. And she just basically tells us that, yes, we're in a place where many of these beings interact and land, and starts telling us how the clouds often bring people there. And I'm like, all right, and that was really the point where, first of all, my mind, it was like the tipping point where, okay, like now this is real. Now I've experienced
You've
it.
had the full 3D experience.
Yeah, direct
Changing things,
experience of, okay, there's no doubt now. And that's not to say that the mind didn't kick in after that at
Sure.
times and doubt it. But that really opened a whole nother level of things for me, where I started to experience everything from that point, where there was like another perspective available and another energy that would come in. And shortly afterwards, I was asked to do an activation in Los Angeles, and I was actually shown that Los Angeles is a place that is being activated and that there's a lot of galactic activity occurring. So I started to experience myself being part of that. So it's really been, that was the opening to kind of a whole nother, I don't know what the word is for that.
Operating system,
Yeah.
way of doing things.
Way of doing things, and realizing that, that's part of how I'm being of service here, is working with these energies, and that I really realizing, having awareness about myself and about why I've felt certain things about being on the planet, and how, as you know, like carrying these energies and having, however you want to say it, whether it's past experiences as these beings or simultaneous experiences of these beings residing there, that it's a beautiful thing to reawaken and reactivate in terms of knowing ourselves and knowing what exists within our consciousness.
Reconnecting the networks.
Yeah.
So after that, and doing the activation that you said, so the Arcturians have sort of been a regular thing in your life now?
Yeah, and sometimes it will be more, intensified. It'll kind of turn on more, and then sometimes it will back off. But what I experience is often that it's almost like serving as an antenna for this energy,
Okay.
and like helping to bring it to the planet. So actually like seeding the energy on the planet in a sense. Like, for example, I've found myself, often I'm like magnetized to certain places, and then I recognize that there's like a seeding of energy happening in that place, as well as assisting with others who kind of, in a sense, have the resonance with this energy to reactivate it within them.
Cool.
So
That's what we're doing here today.
yeah.
Activating and connecting to that energy.
Yes.
Can we start doing some of that now? You feel pretty good?
Yeah.
Okay.